So I've been blogging and sharing recently about reteaming at Redgate, so process we undertake to change up our teams and allow people to have a strong influence on where they work every year. And I've had a few questions on the back of that sharing about the details of what we do and how it really works. So I thought, while I was on my a bit of a stroll today to try and get outside, thought I'd try and answer some of those questions, see if other people find them useful. So let's get on with that. So one thing that a couple of people have asked is how we got to this point, how we started reteaming, why did we do that? So to start with, I think it comes down to some of the principles we've called out for how our development organisation should work. So we're big believers in the book Drive by Dan Pink, which talks about how people need autonomy, mastery and purpose to really unlock motivation, engagement and really hard performance. And if we're saying people should need to have autonomy in what they do and the purpose is key, then surely we need to ask them where they want to work and what they want to do, and to find work that really suits their desires, their drives, their goals of personal development. How can we say we're trying to give people autonomy if we're not giving them real strong influence over that? We were inspired by people's stories about reteaming, about delivery mapping, where we talk about where product teams are in the stage of their product lifecycle. Are they working on a product that's expanding or trying to find its product market fit, or just looking for efficiencies and improvements on a really popular product? And that changes the kind of work you do in a team depending on where you are on that life cycle stage. So calling that out to people and being clear about what it is they might be doing when they're in that team is really important. And people have different preferences, so we should try and align those so that work is as engaging and interesting as it can be for each person. And then we're inspired finally by a lady called Heidi Helfand, who wrote a book, Dynamic Reteaming, who put some of the flesh on the bones of our ideas on this and gave us a model to start working from. So that's why we did our first ever reteaming 3 years ago. Right, I'm on new terrain now, so I hope you can hear me over the frozen mud that I'm currently walking on. So another question people have asked, this is quite a popular one, is why on earth do you do this every year? It's kind of, you must be mad to put yourself through this every year. And I guess we do that, it's quite natural for us to do that every year. So we have a product strategy process that runs annually. So we think about our product portfolio and what each of our products should be trying to do and the solutions that we should be trying to, how we should try to move those forward. And that creates new initiatives, new goals and new missions for our teams and for new teams. We do this every year. So in January, we're thinking about how we need to reconfigure our development organisation behind those new ideas, those new strategies. So that's when all the changes happen. That's when the new opportunities come up. That's when people's missions move. And maybe a team that was doing one type of work is finding themselves being asked to do another type of work. The perfect time for us to ask people whether they're cool with that, whether this is the kind of work that they'd like to be, putting their working life into for the rest of the year. So we do it then. And also, we do it regularly because we found that it normalises teams' moves. It makes it okay. It makes it kind of a business as usual type thing for you to move teams. We were always open to people moving teams at Redgate ever since I joined about 10 years ago. But people didn't really ask to move. It just didn't occur to them. It wasn't something that happened very often anyway. But reteaming has made this a thing that is just part of working life at Redgate. So it's quite normal. It's not weird to want to move a team every year or two in pursuit of some goal or a new challenge. So from a structure where people didn't really ask to move teams, we've had 3 reteamings now, and each time a third of people have changed team, which is fine. It sounds like a lot, but we've coped with it absolutely fine. And a side effect of those changes are that we've increased the cohesion between teams. So broken down a few of the silos, damaging those silos, admittedly a little bit, but breaking down the silos so teams cooperate more. New ideas spread as people move across the organisation during reteaming, and people know other people in teams that they didn't know before. So somebody's reteamed, but they still got connections and relationships to the people they used to be in a team with, so they can reach back out to those folks and collaborate on some work. So that's why we do it every year. So another question that we've been asked quite a lot about reteaming is that, do you end up, when you do this kind of self-selection reteaming, with a team or two that nobody wants to be on, the unpopular team? Maybe they're doing unfashionable work, or they kind of got a bit of a questionable rep. And I guess for us, we haven't found that. To be honest, we work hard every day to make sure there aren't teams that are dysfunctional. That's business as usual, to look after those. You cannot fix those teams with reteaming. You can't fix people with reteaming. You have to start from a solid foundation. But also we found that there is some teams that are doing perhaps more maintenance work, some teams are doing more early stage product exploration work, and you find that there generally are different strokes for different folks. So some people get off on different work to other people, and so there are the teams that maybe you personally, when you were a developer, say, didn't think you'd want to join. Other people do, and other people have varying desires to move at a given time. So some people want the stability of staying with their team, like their team members, don't want to change things up at sometimes, and people like working with the folks they're already working with. So we don't have that. We don't have teams that are just left with nobody. And we've run reteaming 3 times, and we've never found that. Sure, we have some teams that are more popular than others, that are doing something that's more interesting, and some teams that are less popular. And we've been able to make that work by talking to people, asking them to perhaps delay a move to their desired team so that we can backfill to make sure that a team doing some work they're not so attracted to can be well supported. And all in all, when we treat people like grown-ups, they've acted like grown-ups, and they've been quite happy to work with us on that, to delay a move, or to get their personal development kicks from a different aspect of what the team are doing, rather than what they thought they'd get if they moved teams. So we haven't found teams with nobody to do work on. That hasn't happened. Okay, I'm on the run back home now, so I'm looping back home. So 2 more questions. One of those is, can you, if you change every year, if you do reteaming at the beginning of each year, can you change in the middle of the year? Yeah, you can. Absolutely. So we've changed in recent years because we had an acquisition that we needed to put a team on in the middle of the year, and we couldn't wait till the end of the year to reteam to do that. And we reteam. We reteam straight away, but we do it with the principles that we enact at our normal annual reteaming. So we ask people if they'd like to join that team. We call out what the team will be like and what kind of work that we're doing, and we ask for volunteers. We might have to delay some of those moves so that we can backfill to make sure the teams they're leaving are still fit for purpose, but we try and make those opportunities open to people across the organisation, and we wouldn't wait until the next reteaming boundary to make those changes. That wouldn't be agile enough for our organisation or for yours, I don't think. And finally, the question is, does reteaming make people anxious? Yes, it can. It made me anxious first time we tried it. Wow, it was a bit scary, sort of asking people where they wanted to work, not knowing exactly what would happen. But we were brave, we gave it a go, and we've discovered that it really works for us, and that we can make functional teams that are fit for purpose for our product strategies, while meeting the vast majority of our people's preferences on where they'd like to be. Just this last reteaming, which finished last month, 83% of our developers got their first team preference, 98% got a preference, so they give a first, second or third preference. But yes, it does cause anxiety because people don't like change. So we're trying to give folks enough heads up about the change that's coming and explain all the context for it and understand what they need to do and their options. We make ourselves available to talk to people as much as possible about what they're thinking about reteaming. And we don't do the kind of single self-selection event where we lock everyone in a virtual room at the moment and say, right, you've got to sort your teams out in the next 2 hours, find where you're going to work for the next 2 years. That's too much pressure. That would be a nightmare for a number of people. I mean, I wouldn't have liked it. And you'd find the people who are very confident in their abilities and outspoken would find themselves a great team. And then the folks of us that are slightly more introverted and a bit less secure at some of what they do would end up in, whatever team's left. So we don't do that. Instead, we have a elongated process for some, a couple of weeks, where we talk about what is available for people to do, what the teams will be working on in the rest of the year. And then we work with them one-on-one to work through what their preferences might be. We provide coaching and mentoring, and we work through where they might like to be and then see if we can meet those preferences. But the final piece, I think, and something we need to do better at, something we've learned this time, is that just by saying, hey, if you're in a team that's continuing and your preference is to stay there, then we will do everything we can to make sure that happens. So we won't take you out of a team that you're happy in and on work that you're really engaged in. Even if that might help with a few of the wider organisational issues with creating teams, we are going to try not to do that. And I think by saying that, you remove a good portion of the anxiety of people that just don't want to change right now. That there's a lot going on in the world, and changing a team isn't something at the top of your list right now. Okay, so they're the questions that we get asked quite a lot. Happy to field some more. I'm happy to talk to folks that are interested in doing some reteaming and haven't had a chance to give it a go yet, or something's holding them back. Let us know in the comments, or hit me up at chris.smith@redgate.com, and I'll be happy to have a chat and see if we can help make self-selection reteaming work at your place. Thanks.